was a bit of an underwhelming budget, but it was always going to be a difficult one for the minister, having to balance economic growth and also making sure that he controls expenditure. The most important things for me, being from the financial sector and giving people investment advice, was more the lack of detail from the budget. He sort of touched on Twin Peaks, which is going to be the regulation or the proposed regulation for our industry, and how things like pricing, advertising to customers, how they access credit, making sure that things like bank collusion doesn't happen, or financial institutions don't fail and people lose their money. That's all under Twin Peaks, and he sort of touched on it today, but really didn't get into the nuts and bolts of it. Also, number two, something I was hoping that the minister would touch on, is the retirement reform that was proposed last year. Again, we know how the tax portion of that was restructured, but in terms of the second part, whether people leaving pension funds will be forced to preserve some of that, I really wish he had touched on that, because it's a big issue for people, number one, approaching retirement, but also for people considering taking retirement products. One of the main things I think that will be talked about from the budget speech is the increases in income tax, and people will focus on the 45% now that high income taxpayers will earn. But you know, when I sit with high income earners, one of the ways that we structure their portfolios is to make sure we give them investment vehicles that give them tax efficiency and tax rebates. And one of those things is retirement products. So that's why I'm saying I wish he would have touched a bit more on the retirement reforms. But what he did touch on was the tax-free savings accounts. Very good products, because all the contributions you make there and all the interest earned inside that product is tax-free. That's why it's called the tax-free saving product. So he increased your annual contribution there from 30,000 to 33,000. So really, if you're looking for a way to get around the tax issue, look into that. But he didn't say whether the lifelong threshold of 500,000 will be increased. Again, for those more higher income earners, because why I keep touching them is, you know, they're called the golden goose of our country, and really the majority of our tax comes from them. So they really now have to start thinking about tax efficiency in their investment strategy, and looking at things like an endowment. And why I say an endowment is because any income or interest generated from there is only taxed at 30%. Now, if I had the choice to be taxed 45% or 30% of my income, definitely I know which one I'd be choosing. I also think the 30 cents per litre, or the increase in the fuel levy to 30 cents per litre, will have a significant impact on the average man in the street. Why I say that, number one, an increase to fuel has a role and effect on pretty much everything in our society, because we need to move things around. So higher fuel prices probably means higher food prices, and so on and so on. And that's a bit of an issue for us, because we still in a high inflation environment. So the last thing we need is something that's going to push that above the 6% band target by the South African Reserve Bank. That will have a significant impact on people. And number two, we know that we're in a highly indebted society. So 30 cents might not sound like much, but you know, 30 cents over a month, over a year, it will have a significant impact, especially because people's incomes, we know, don't tend to keep up with inflation. So any small adjustments like that definitely will have a role and effect.